Well, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens, especially, if we do have increasing civil unrest in this country, which I anticipate is organized and already planned to coincide with the coming attack on Iran. And so we actually have terrorist training camps in this country that actually are financed with the full knowledge of the CIA and the FBI that refuse to do anything about these terrorist training camps, where convicted felons, certainly have been discharged from prison, but convicted felons are being trained in the use of automatic weapons. Anybody who doubts that needs to go up on the Internet and look up Dr. Paul Williams. Dr. Paul Williams and Islamberg and his articles. Read those and understand the terrorist training camps are here in America, and you're not hearing about them from the media because, of course, they control essentially what the American people think. Well, Bob, certainly as far as the finances are concerned, certainly, what about Europe? You were going to be over in the television there in Greece. Did you ever get over there this last week?
No, they haven't contacted me yet, but they said they wanted to have me again, so I'm waiting to hear from them.
Well, from what I've read,
I was on in England and Ireland, but...
Well, what about England and Ireland? They're not doing very well financially, are they? They're having lots of problems.
Yeah, they are. And I don't know whether they're going to be able to get out of it. The banks are in such serious trouble.
Well, can't they just keep printing money, or will that lead to disaster? Hold that thought. We'll be back in a moment.
They're part of the Eurozone. What does that mean? It means
hold that thought. Go right ahead. Bob was just saying that he thinks that the currencies down the line are going to be devalued, probably about 2/3, so that they'll only be worth about 1/3. You'll have $1, and it'll have about 1/3 of its purchasing power. Is that what you're suggesting?
Right, and I think people on Social Security and the benefits for Medicare will be cut by an equal amount. But Medicaid, I don't think they'll cut it because these people want to keep the rabble under control, so to speak. And so with that said, I think those benefits will be continued. But the people who worked for years, put into the system of Medicare, put into the system of Social Security, I think will lose 2/3 of their benefits. And you and I are in that category among many, many others. And that's what they're going to do. And I think pension and profit-sharing plans, because of the fall in the stock market, I think they'll end up paying something like that, 1/3 of what they would have otherwise, maybe even less. And so it's really going to be a mess. And you listen to my words. Anybody who has investment funds, who is not in gold and silver bullion, coins, and shares, is going to lose almost everything. And if you're not in those venues, you're not going to keep your capital together.
All right. Well, our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. That's 464-8295. Give us a call if you have a question or comment. Now, that number, 464-8295, of course, here is in the Central Coast of California. The last hour, we had a caller, somebody who called in, the first caller, actually, his name was Cliff, and he was from Texas, and he'd taken your advice. He'd put his money in his 401k program into gold and silver stocks you'd recommended, and he said they were just doing great since April of this year, just going like the wind.
Well, they're doing okay, but, they're under pressure from the United States government, not only the shares, but gold and silver itself. And that's going to continue. And they're not going to go away until the government is changed.
Well, I'm sure that is true. I think that they really, the last thing they want is for us to have a solid currency. We had a solid currency from 1789, I guess 1787, all the way, of course, until 1913, and then we still had 40% gold backing for our currency until 1971. In 1971, they took us completely off of a gold-backed currency with some restriction, and now, of course, government can print as much money as it wants to, and politicians love to print money because that's how they buy votes. And this whole thing is all about buying votes. And, of course, the tragedy is a lot of people will vote for the man who promises to give them the most. But eventually the whole thing collapses. Why? Well, it's always collapsed. It did it in ancient Greece. It did it in ancient Rome. This is what happened to Great Britain. Great Britain has become a second-class nation, and now it's happening here in the United States, and we shouldn't be surprised. Let's go to Henry, who's calling from Connecticut. Again, our number, 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. And I agree with Bob. I think most people are going to be wiped out financially before this is over. Henry, go right ahead.
Yeah, hi. A couple of things for Mr. Chapman. I know, too, you were talking about stuff earlier that why all this stuff happened because of, made some comment earlier because of God in the schools and religion and all that stuff in the schools and all that. Well, I'm just thinking you have Switzerland, which is a predominantly, white country that didn't have that in their schools, and they're not quite the same mess that we are.
They are one of the cradles of Christianity, and they're still a strongly Christian nation.
Yeah, but socially and sexually, though, they're not as stuck up with all that moral stuff and everything like America is. I mean, all over Europe is much freer than we are.
Well, personally, I think that once you take God out of a nation, why God turns his back on that nation is destroyed. But be that as it may, Henry, what was your point?
Well, all right. I want to get into something economical. As far as the EU is concerned, what do you see as far as, the EU breaking up, as far as Germany now, as far as, I'm hearing some stuff going on, as far as even Austria, and I'm hoping that there was I don't know if you know this too, but they're more sophisticated than we are in this way, that in Austria since September of 2008, you can be 16 and vote in national elections, just like you 18 here and vote for a president. And let's get Bob's talk because we're almost out of it. What do you think about this? The political parties, breaking up the EU. If one of them will.
What do you think,
the National
Bob?
Party?
Well, it's got a number of questions.
Oh, okay.
And
the EU.
Hold that thought. Right. We'll be right back here. This is Dr. Stan, and our guest, of course, is Bob Chapman. Our telephone number is 1-888-24-LIBERTY, 1-888-24-LIBERTY, or 464-8295. But before we go on, Bob, I want you to tell our listeners how they can get a copy of the International Forecaster and how they can subscribe to it.
Well, the forecast is about business, finance, economic, social, and political issues all over the world, and we publish on Wednesdays and Saturdays by email. It is about 40 pages each time. And then we have a hard copy that goes out twice a month for those who are not on the Internet. And you can get a free introductory copy by going to one of our two sites. The first one is theinternationalforecaster.com, theinternationalforecaster.com, or www.intforecaster.com. That's intforecaster.com. You can email us if you have a question, and we answer everyone. And that address is Bob, B-O-B, at intforecaster.com. And also you can call toll-free 800-375-4188. That's 800-375-4188.
Okay, Bob, thank you so much, and thank you so very much for calling, Henry. Let's go to Dave calling from Texas, and I would simply comment that if you do not have any religious foundation for a nation and you go to court, why should you expect you'd get any sort of a fair appraisal? If the judge doesn't believe in God, if he has no fear in God, why shouldn't he simply favor whichever lawyer he likes? Certainly, if there is no God, what is the basis of the foundation of our society or of any society? As Ravi Zacharias once said, if there are no absolutes, there is no God, there's no right and there is no wrong. Certainly, some people want to love their neighbors, other people want to eat their neighbors. Which position do you take? Hi, Dave. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Interesting comment. I was having that discussion about the problem with the federal judge and so forth on another program a couple hours back, as it turns out. But I was going to ask you and Bob at this time about the economics. Your previous caller was mentioning about Europe, and I do keep up with that as well. I was going to ask Bob, what does he think of the significance of the apparent economic slowing down in Japan? China's apparently overtaken Japan, at least statistically, as the second largest economy, though not yet on a per capita basis. And of late, I've been noticing this talk about the yen having I think it's a 25-year high vis-a-vis the dollar. And there has been apparently some, at least in Japan, some measurable deflation, which apparently has been driving up, in part, the value of the yen, but hurting their exports and hurting their economic growth.
All right, well, let's get Bob.
How do you think that will affect the U.S. economy?
No, are you questioning about Japan, or you're questioning about Europe?
In this case, specifically Japan, actually. But
okay, fine. What do you think about going on in Japan?
It's pretty simple. The yen is appreciating, and the yuan in China is staying the same when it should appreciate against other currencies. And we've had this problem forever and ever, and that is all of the foreign countries manipulate their currencies so that their exports to the United States are inexpensive. And that, of course, hurts American business, no matter which one of them or all of them are doing that with their currencies. It's a form of economic warfare. And so that's why we need tariffs on goods and services, very, very much so. And if we don't get them, we're going to lose another 8 million jobs over the next 10 years. And we're going to be a third world nation.
But I think that is the real plan. The people in charge really do want to destroy the industrial base of this nation. That's why, of course, they lie about tariffs, how terrible tariffs are. Why, if we had tariffs, why we'd be in a depression? We wouldn't be able to export. Well, we are in a depression, and we are not exporting well in this country, and we're losing more jobs all the time and outsourcing our jobs and bringing in workers, both illegal immigrants intentionally and people with H-1B visas. We're doing that to lower the wage levels and impoverish the people. But the average American can't figure out what's happening. Would you agree with that, Dave? Bob?
Yeah, I agree with it.
Okay, Bob, what are your thoughts?
Oh, they're in a massive Psy-war operation, and they've been that way for a long, long time. And it's going to continue.
And I think until people understand that they are intensely destroying the currency of this nation and the industrial base of this nation, because these people are globalists, they hate the United States, and they certainly hate freedom, and they realize when they've impoverished our people, they'll much more readily go along with the enslavement that's planned.
Well, that's backfiring, though. All the hard times are turning the people against the government. I believe that the government's going to get voted out in the midterm elections. I certainly hope they will. I'm going to vote against them myself.
Okay, fine. That's
and I think it's being brought down.
I think you're right, Bob. What are your thoughts before we let Dave go?
There's running so many subjects, but I agree with them on the voting, because if we don't vote these people out, it's over. It is over. Well, because this is our last chance.
Okay, let's hope that it happens, Dave, and we'll be interested. You give us a call after the midterm elections. We'll see where we're going. Let's go to Charlotte from Alabama. Again, our number 1-888-24-LIBERTY or 464-8295. Hi, Charlotte. How are you doing?
Hi, Dr. Stan, and this is for Bob. He mentioned that they were going to keep perhaps Medicaid as it was and cut Medicare. I voted in my last primary, for congressional people. And then I went to the grocery store, and the two checkout ladies, who I think would have been Medicaid people, I said, "Did you vote today?" Just asking. And they said, "Oh, no, we've already voted for Obama. We don't have to vote again." So I don't really think, they understand that they have to vote in all the primaries. And
well, let's just be thankful for that, Charlotte, because if they really don't, if they are, that's what they are.
To get all that upset because they don't understand that they weren't interested in congressional and Senate races.
Well, but let's just hope they do stay at home then in November. Okay.
So maybe there's hope.
Oh, God bless. Thanks so much, Charlotte. Anything else you wanted to say?
No, that's it.
All right, God bless. Let's go to Harry calling from Michigan.